Welcome to the Building with Metal podcast, presented by McElroy Metal. Whether you're a contractor, architect, designer, or building owner, we're here to help you build better with metal roofing and siding products.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host today, Kathy Miller, and we're joined by Renee Ramey, the Executive Director of the Metal Roofing Alliance. Welcome to the show, Renee.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We're looking forward to the discussion. So kind of kick things off, if you would, by telling us a little bit about yourself and your role at MRA.
Okay. I've been in the industry for over 25 years. I started out with a steel mill / converter, spent some time at a steel distributor service center, and then took on the role of executive director of MRA. So I've been in various positions throughout the industry for quite a while. Very passionate about our industry, about metal, and about metal roofing specifically. So that's my background. As far as MRA and who we are and what we do, we exist to educate and promote metal roofing to homeowners. So we are considered legally a nonprofit because we're education based. And so, yeah, we're pretty simple. What you see is what you get. We're just here to spread information, provide homeowners everything they need to know about metal roofing to make educated decisions, and dispel any myths that are out there about metal roofing as a product for a roof.
And you guys do a great job with all of that. You guys, I know you have so much on your website and some really cool infographics that help people understand a lot of the decisions along the way. So it's really helpful tools. If our listeners haven't checked you guys out, for sure they should. So with that said, let's hop into what we wanted to talk about today. So a few weeks ago, you published an article. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is perfect. We've got to get Renee on the show. So the article for our listeners was titled Forecast for Residential Metal Roofing, Keys to Growth This Year and Beyond. And quite a few things in that article kind of struck out at me, but one in particular I kind of wanted to start with. You started with some really staggering statistics. Can you fill us in?
Yeah, so we have, since MRA came into existence, we have paid for some customized market research to be done, with the goal of setting a baseline and being able to determine every year what kind of progress we're making in our mission, which again, our mission is to grow the use of metal roofing in the residential segment. So I share all that to say that when we started out as an entity, when MRA first came into existence, metal roofing amounted or resulted in about 3% of the roofing that went on homes in the United States of America. And since then, the latest statistics, we've changed some research partners here in the last couple of years, but it's been as high as 17% market share. And the new market research company we're working with, some fantastic forecasts for where they think the market will go. And I mean, we're looking at, in fact, MRA's mission is to get to 20% of the market for metal roofing in residential by 2030. So we believe there's a lot of growth potential for metal roofing in residential.
And by 2030, so just within 5 years.
Yes, that's
wow.
our
Okay.
goal.
That's a lofty goal, but by the same token, we're seeing a lot of shift in momentum right in the industry here lately. So what do you think is really driving that customer decision and the attraction to metal roofing these days?
Yeah, well, I think, through MRA efforts and obviously efforts of other people in the industry, we're trying to dispel those myths. So those myths include, metal roofing only comes in like a standing seam or a vertical rib product. That is not true. It can look like any other roofing material out there. So I think there's some education of homeowners about the profiles that metal roofing is available in. And then beyond that, it's the benefits that metal roofing brings once it's on the roof. So it's the energy savings, it's the perfect platform for solar, it's the how it performs in weather-related events, specifically wildfires, hurricanes, hail. So there's that aspect of it. And then certainly we're finding homeowners are getting more and more interested in sustainability and the environmental impacts that their choices, building construction choices, make on our environment. And again, metal has a very good story to tell there as well. So lots of reasons I think people are moving to metal.
Right. So let's dig into that sustainability for a minute. In case some of our listeners aren't familiar, what's the big sustainability difference maker between maybe an asphalt shingle and a various type of a metal roofing system?
The things that we like to educate homeowners on is that metal it can be recycled infinitely, which means that the metal roofing that goes onto a home is made of recycled content a lot of times, at least a portion of, and is 100% recyclable at the end of its life. So when you start talking landfills and the products going into landfills, metal roofing doesn't need to be one of those products. We're constantly regenerating, reutilizing that material to make new things. And so landfills is one. The other thing that it's the process that goes into making a metal roof, right? So, we have some pretty clean, energy efficient manufacturing processes that go into manufacturing the metal and then the metal roofing panels themselves. Whereas, there's some pretty staggering statistics on the amount of petroleum and oil-based products that go into making an asphalt roof. And of course, I forget the exact percentage, but it's like 90% of that material or more goes into landfills at the end of its life. And it's just the vast difference between what metal roofing offers on that sustainability front versus other products that are out there.
Yeah, those are great points. And then, of course, there's the whole energy savings factor as well, right?
Yes, we've touted different numbers over the year, but long and short of it is that if you put a quality metal roof on your home that incorporates the cool roofing technology, which is basically the paint system that goes onto the product, you can save a decent amount. I think depending on the regions we've looked at, it can be as low as 5 to 10%, but it's been up as high as 40% in energy cost savings from your heating and cooling costs just for having a metal roof on your home.
Those add up for sure, especially, with the cost of energy these days, like everything else, right? It's getting more expensive. And if a homeowner can all of a sudden, justify that once in a lifetime metal roof and save 20-30% on their energy bills, it's a real difference maker.
Yeah.
And of course, color matters too, right? As far as energy savings, your lighter colors tend to help you conserve even more energy than your darkers.
Yes. Yeah. And an important thing that we've pointed out recently in an article that we put out, though, is that even with darker colors, because metal roofing has that paint system or that coating on it, there is that opportunity to pick a darker color of paint and still have it have very high solar reflective index numbers, SRA numbers. So it's
Absolutely.
emitting a lot of that and it's reflecting a lot of that, all of which means cooler cost savings, cooler
Right.
roof.
And in case our listeners aren't familiar, the technology is that the way the new paint systems are designed, when the sun hits a metal roof, it reflects a lot of that back into into the atmosphere. Whereas some of the older technologies and definitely shingles bring that heat into your attic. And so, of course, then you have to have your cooling system work to cool that down. And so it's a very, very big difference maker, especially even if you can incorporate what's called ASV or above shooting ventilation. That also helps save even more, where you take and give that air a chance to take and escape. So some
Yeah.
really big differences there. So let's talk a little bit, Renee. I mean, obviously some great progress here on the transition to metal roofing. Do you notice it bigger in certain markets or with certain demographics, or are we seeing a pretty much holistic approach across the country?
Yeah, I'd say across the board, we're seeing interest levels go up, certainly. But there are definite regions where metal is gaining in popularity quicker than other areas. And from what I'm seeing, that has a lot to do with those areas that are getting hit with, extreme weather events. So Florida and the Southeast US with the high winds and the hurricanes. A lot of people are having to re-roof their home. A lot of people are getting tired of re-roofing their home or, worried about, re-roofing their home. And so they're doing their research and they're finding, this is a great solution. A quality metal roofing system on your home can withstand, they're tested. We're rigorously tested, a lot of our systems, to withstand winds as high as 140 miles an hour. So there are some definite regions. Wildfire, I live on the West Coast. Wildfires are a thing we deal with out here. The resistance to embers that can travel miles in a wildfire. If you've got a product like metal roofing that is resistant to those embers that are floating miles and miles within a wildfire region, you're adding that safety factor to your home, that your roof is not going to catch on fire, i.e. your house is going to catch on fire, right? It's just those little things that you can do to make your home more resistant. So I guess that's a long answer to say there's definitely some regions where we're seeing the interest go up at greater rates than the whole, but we are seeing it across the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of maybe some regional areas, let's talk a little bit about the Florida situation here recently with the regulators and fill our listeners in on some of those new developments, if you would.
Yeah. Well, the Florida Insurance Commissioner had some pretty major storms had come through, hurricanes had come through, and there was some pretty major damage here of late. And the Florida Insurance Commissioner himself even said that asphalt doesn't perform right. Like it's not the right roofing material for certain regions of Florida that are experiencing these frequent and consistent storms that are coming through. And so that has lit the fire, just as far as more and more people are hearing, even the insurance industry is recognizing this. And so there's things in effect now. There's a lot of things that are still in effect, and I don't know where they'll land, but certainly different building codes, different regions and areas of Florida are considering making stricter requirements or regulations for the types of roofs that go on homes. And so, yeah, that's a benefit for metal roofing because, again, a quality system performs very well.
Absolutely. So if we do see some of this turn into a difference in standards and codes and requirements, local ordinances, it could really propel things super
Yeah.
quickly. Right now we're being really customer and homeowner centric driven because to your point, they are tired of replacing a roof every 10 or 15 years, right? You
Yep.
never get done having to budget for or pay for an asphalt shingle roof where metal you can be in and out. But boy, if we get some of the legislation behind us, I think things are going to
Oh,
really take off quickly.
yeah. Agreed.
So, and that doesn't even count insurance, right? So let's talk a little bit about some of the insurance differences for our homeowners and our listeners and contractors.
Yeah, it varies a lot by where you live. We actually just made an attempt as an organization to try to do some research and provide some very specific numbers by state or by region. And it does vary quite a bit, but I think one thing we have found is that overarching is most insurance companies are giving some sort of discounts, rebates, what have you, some benefit to homeowners who install metal roofing on their homes for some of the reasons we just spoke about, the longevity, the weather performance in extreme weather conditions, things of that nature that make metal more appealing. And just to kind of go beyond that a little bit, I think one of the things insurance companies are starting to acknowledge and recognize is that if your roof blows off or it catches fire, everything within the home is then exposed, including, your family, your people, but your possessions as well. And if you can keep that roof, that protective layer on your home, you have a greater chance of not having as much or any interior damage depending on the situation. And so I think, they're seeing the insurance companies are seeing the benefit beyond just replacing a roof. It's replacing, inside of a house, water damage and things
Absolutely.
of that nature as well. So, yeah, so there are some discounts. There are some states and regions that have really recognized it through their rates and what they're offering.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm in the Midwest, and my carrier, we have a metal roof on our home. I kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have any other product. But I know our insurance carrier actually has a table in my policy, and for a metal roof, I get a hefty discount. I've also heard of some other people here locally that the insurance company, maybe they bought a new house and the insurance company refused to insure it until the asphalt shingle roof was replaced, either with asphalt or with a metal roof product. So insurers are definitely, I think the tides are definitely turning for sure.
Yep. I agree.
So let's talk a little bit. One of the other things I thought was really neat in the article you wrote was the Warrior Village project, and kind of the two veins of really cool feel goods, if you would, in that project. Can you tell us about that, Renee?
Yeah, I don't know as much about it as I would like to admit, although we did a pretty good write up on it. What I know is limited pretty much to, what was shared with us. But yeah, it was a really cool project where they were looking for some donated materials and labor to get this village, this warrior village, roofed in something that would last. That's going to make it worth the investment that all these different companies and vendors and philanthropists are putting into building this village for veterans and things of that nature. And so it was really neat to be able to see metal be recognized and selected, and to have some of our members step up and donate that material and some of the labor that went behind getting those installed. It was a really cool project.
Absolutely. It is beautiful. So maybe we can link to that in the show notes. So,
Yeah.
the other thing that I thought was neat in that project is that a local sheet metal company used that as an opportunity, correct me if I'm wrong though, to train high school kids on sheet
I
metal
believe so.
skills.
I believe I read that as well. Again, I'm not super familiar with that, but yeah, it was a great opportunity. I know they had some people in there trying to use it as an educational opportunity. Yeah.
And that kind of leads into, I think, one of the challenges our industry has faced, right? And that is we still really have a shortage of installed quality contractors in certain areas. In other areas of the country, it's not a problem. But
Yeah.
why are contractors resistant to jump into metal roofing?
I think it's a lack of understanding, and jumping into anything new can be risky, regardless of what it is, or scary.
That's a good
So
point.
I think there's some misinformation out there about it definitely requires a more skilled labor force to install a metal roofing correctly than it would an asphalt. But once you get your team, trained up and comfortable with the process of installing metal, my experience and what I've heard is it doesn't take a lot longer to install a metal roof than it does an asphalt roof. Once you know what you're doing, and it is a role or a position, and a market, probably bigger thinking, a market that there's more profit to be made because it's just a higher quality product. It lasts a lot longer. So we talk to a lot of contractor members who, they make a decent margin on a roof. The profitability of their company as a whole for those products is pretty good because it's something not a lot of people want to get into. But the harder part is metal is becoming so popular with homeowners, and we are seeing that desire to get at least information, if not install a metal roof on your home. And there's just not enough contractors to keep up with the demand, and it is starting to impact, yeah, our ability to grow market share from metal roofing. Yeah.
It is. I know on our McElroymetal.com website, we have a find a contractor portal. And if any of our listeners want to check that out, feel free. But you can put in your zip code and find out areas near you. And, we have over 3,000 visits to that page a month from
Yeah.
folks just trying to get connected with an installer. So there is, if you're a contractor listening today and you're looking for a new niche market or a new revenue stream, it's definitely a great time to get in. To Renee's point, it is, your tool. Cost to get into metal roofing is very small. You probably already have it all. It is a little different labor pool, and you need to get some training. But those are all things that can easily be accomplished. And as Renee said, that the benefit is you're going to have less competition, and so less competition typically is going to mean a higher margin for you. And it's also kind of cool to be able to differentiate yourself as the guy or the company that offers that Cadillac product that's really on the rise that everybody wants. So, any other thoughts, Renee? How can, if a contractor is wanting to get into metal roofing, what's a good way for them to learn more and take that next step?
Yeah, well, certainly there's a lot of websites out there. I would point to the Metal Roofing Alliance webpage. We've got a lot of tools and resources out there on our website, but also the Metal Construction Association, the NRCA has a pretty robust training program. So there's a lot of different entities out there that offer information about metal roofing installation and otherwise. But when I get a call, and I get some fairly frequent calls from various contractors or people looking to get into the industry and wanting to get trained, I usually refer you to the manufacturer first. Most manufacturers offer some sort of training program or install guides or whatever that might look like, and it's better or it's valuable to get specific training in the product you're going to be using and installing versus just overall training. So I would definitely always recommend, once you identify whose products you want to install, get with them, find out what they offer. And then there's some other training programs that are not manufacturer specific that we recommend people, look into as well. And so, yeah, just contact MRA, contact MCA, contact your manufacturer, McElroy Metals or otherwise. And it's not hard, to your point. It's not hard to find the training if you're committed to learning how to install the product. It's out there.
That's a great point, right? It all starts with commitment. So,
Yeah.
one of the other things I would encourage our listeners, if they're thinking about jumping into metal roofing in your research phase, there are, we probably have 25 different types of products, right? As an industry, you can find now standing seams and products that look like shingle and stone granulated shingles and standing seam panels. So, your customers are probably all going to want different stuff. And so you might behoove yourself to work with somebody that has a pretty robust product line so that you can build those partnerships and kind of stay in line with the people that, you know their systems and they know you and your expectations. So, Renee, anything else we need to share with our listeners today?
You know what? I'd say that if you're in the industry and you're either already installing metal or you're thinking about it, I would encourage you to go to the MetalCon show that's going to be happening in late October. It's in Las Vegas this year. MRA is partnering with MCA. We're going to have some on-floor install training during the show. Lots of great vendors and companies to interact with as well. But that's a great place to go if you're interested but not sure how to take the next step, for sure. The International Roofing Expo, which is early next year, is also a great show. So there's a lot of not company specific, not, trade association specific venues or events you can go to that just allow you to kind of peruse and get your feet wet without committing to anything as well.
That's a great point, Renee. That's a great opportunity to stop and visit with 10 or 20 different vendors,
Yep.
as well as meet up with some installers over times in the lobby areas and pick people's brains. So that's a great
Yep.
point. If anybody wants to connect with you, Renee, or learn more about the MRA, how should they contact you?
Our email is very simple. It's support@metalroofing.com. Our website's metalroofing.com. There's ways to connect through to me and our staff through the website as well. So yeah, I'd say just get on the website. It's got all our info, but it's also got our contact information. And I'd be happy to hop on a call or email back and forth with anyone on any questions they have.
Fabulous. Well, thanks for joining the show today, Renee.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to the Building with Metal podcast, presented by McElroy Metal. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Visit us online at www.mcelroymetal.com for more info and products. Until next time, keep building with metal.